Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So, as some of y'all may know, we are new here. And our coming was up on about 3 weeks, and it's crazy to think about how time flies. And prior to us heading on our trek down here to Georgia, I took an extra week off so I could handle some of the moving logistics, waiting for the pod to be dropped off, then waiting for it to be picked up, but also so that I could spend some extra time with Arya prior to the big move and do some of the things we love to experience with one another in the Twin Cities. And in spending those few days on what we have lovingly called in our home Baba and Booba dates, it made me think back to one of the last times I was able to spend so much time with Arya for a prolonged period. Unfortunately, it was not due to a happy reason, like moving to a new Kehillah, but rather it was because she was at home from school for the first 3.5 months or so due to the pandemic. I recall just how taxing those months had been, but also kind of trying to be a glass half full person, I was trying to think about what that fullness was. And for me, it was the fact that I was able to spend more quality time with my loved ones. And hopefully some of you all had the same experiences. As I said, I was able to spend from mid-March with Arya until right after the 4th of July. And some of you might have learned, like I have, that when you spend that much time with someone, you begin to learn more and notice more about them. You also begin to learn what pushes not only their buttons, but also the small things that might slightly rub you the wrong way. You start to notice the emotional triggers of both the bad and the good. This is not only true in relation to my then 4-year-old, but for all people. And I share this because there is one day I recall vividly from Baba and Booba at home days. It was a few weeks before Arya headed back to school, and it seemed like it was going to be the best day we were going to have together. There were no meltdowns. She agreed to nap. She did not complain about any of the food for meals or snacks, and she even allowed me to get a lot of work done. However, that fairy tale moment was shattered when one of those meltdowns occurred. Throughout the emotional meltdown, she threw out some of her favorite phrases like, "That wasn't nice, Baba. I don't want to. That's not fair." Or the ever popular, "You're not my best friend anymore." All those typical tantrum phrases made their way in my direction, and I brushed them off as I or April commonly do, thus allowing Arya to air out her frustration really in only one of the ways she knows how to. However, she then said something that she had never said before, and it was something that I felt I needed to address immediately. As she was stomping away to her room with her arms firmly on her hips, she said, "I do not love you anymore, Baba." That phrase spun me into a genuine emotional whirlwind, making me feel as if I had to act. As I sat with her in her bedroom on her beanbag chair, I said that it was not nice to say that to me or to her mama or siblings or relatives. I said, we as a family can disagree and be upset with someone close to us. That is okay. What is not okay is to say you no longer love them because of a minor incident, which in our case was putting away her Barbies and all of their accessories. After I said that she should not say that, she asked, "Well, why are you sad now, Baba?" I said, "Your words really hurt my feelings. And I care so much about you and love you. And to hear you say that really made me sad. Sadder than I felt before. Because the way you said it really made me feel like you did not love me anymore." She gave me a hug and understood the power of her words, or at least to some degree. So why do I bring this up? Our Parsha this week is all about words. Our text opens with, "Ela Devarim asher diber Moshe al kol Yisrael be'ever hayarden." These are the words that Moses addressed to all of Israel on the other side of the Jordan. Now, of course, we then don't actually get the words from Moses immediately following this statement, The Torah sets the scene with where we're located, what year we are in our wandering, and the month and the date. Finally, then, in verse 5, we are told again that Moses is going to speak, as the text says, Be'ever ha'yarden, be'eretz Moav, ho'il Moshe, be'er et ha'torah hazot le'mor. On the other side of the Jordan, in the land of Moab, Moses undertook to expound this teaching, and he said. So as we can tell from the two verses I shared, this parsha, and one could really argue, the entire book of Devarim is about words in some way or another, as it is Moses' last soliloquy to the nation that he had led for decades. To me, it is fitting that the beginning of the last book of the Torah highlights the importance of words. And I say this because if we recall back to how our whole Torah starts, it actually begins with the strength, the power, and significance of words. The subject of words actually bookends our entire holy text. The world is created through God's words. From the beginning, we are meant to learn the majesty of words and the good that can come from them. And in our case, the very creation of the entire world. In 1:3, it says, God said, let there be light, and there was light. Yet then the biblical author decides to call back to the power of words here in Devarim, but now highlighting their negative influence. Moses recalls the part of our narrative that caused the previous generation to not be allowed into the land. It was because of their negative reports and the words of the spies that put the Israelite camp into a frenzy and worrying for what they thought was their inevitable doom. Both creation and ultimately the generation of Israelites' own self-destruction in the desert happened with the same act, the act of speaking. This double-edged sword of the use of words is discussed in later rabbinic literature. In Deuteronomy Rabbah, there is a discussion about the word Devarim from our very parsha. Anyone who has read Torah from the scroll will know that one of the major challenges is that we don't have nekudot, or vowels, to help us pronounce the words. And this is challenging because in Hebrew there are words that, when written without vowels, can be pronounced in different ways. The second word in our text, Devarim, is such an example. If one comes across the word Dalet Vet Resh Yod Mem, one could say that it is the word Devarim, or words. However, minus the nekudot, or the vowels, it also could be pronounced Devarim, which has a very, very different meaning of bees. Now, bees often, I think, get a bad rap because usually the first or second thing that we think of concerning a bee is that they can sting us and hurt us. I personally have my own tragic horror story from my childhood involving bees, and so that's often my first thought. However, the other thing that we most commonly associate with bees is the production of honey. And the Jewish tradition in many different ways has expressed to us that we should have a positive view of honey. The land that flows like milk and honey. The idea that we want Torah to be on our lips and to be sweet like honey. The tradition of a newlywed couple dipping their challah in honey for the first year of their marriage. And who can forget the custom, which we will all be partaking in just 2 short months, or even less now, dipping apples into honey for a sweet new year. So we see that the sweetness that bees can bring into this world as well. It is also the case with words. I know that each of us can think of many instances in our lives when words have been some of the sweetest things we have ever heard and causes us to be filled with happiness. Yet I can also imagine that there are numerous times that we have been left feeling empty, alone, and ostracized because of the stinging words that someone used to pierce our heart and emotion in a way we may have never felt before. This midrash on the word Devarim is meant here to be a constant reminder to us of the true power of words, that they can be used to build someone up or even ourselves up, yet words can also, in the blink of an eye, tear a person down. Yet there is one more thing I want us to pull from this midrash. As I said, it is easy to make an error when reading a language, and especially when reading without vowels. Yes, even us rabbis sometimes pronounce the words wrong. And it seems that the Midrash is also teaching us, just as it is easy for us to mispronounce a word or read a word, so too is it easy for us to forget the impact that the words we say can make on another. Or, in the case of Arya, we might not truly realize the impact of our words until someone sits us down and explains it to us. My hope is that when we hear ourselves speak, whether in a moment of calm or in a heated discussion, that we truly think about the words that we are saying, because those words could potentially lift someone up or tear them down. We must be intentional with our words, and we must hold ourselves and others accountable for what we say. May this parsha of Devarim, truly the entire book, be a constant reminder to follow the old adage, think before you speak, because the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, is a fallacy. Sticks and stones will only break bones or physically harm us, but the scars from words can last forever, and they are often hidden. The words that we use to address all of Israel or to any individual are in our control. Let us use them for the better. Let us make our words sweet like the honey that comes from the bees. Shabbat shalom.